In the previous video, we flew through a high-level overview of our user's journey from discovering our app to making an in-app purchase. In this video, we're going to do a worked example with real numbers and see what we can learn.
I've made a Google Sheet which helps lay all of this out. There are notes on all of the cells explaining where to get the numbers from, so we won't show step by step for how to get every single one. We'll just focus on the interesting ones. But we will reflect on the lessons we can learn from my app. The app we're going to use for this is called World Clock. Its main selling point is that it can show world times in a today widget. The business model is free to download with ads, and you can buy an in-app purchase to remove the ads and unlock some extra features. We're going to look at data for the World Clock app for the last 30 days. Let's jump into iTunes Connect and see what we can learn about app discovery. We may also need to fire up App Annie. We can fill in the App Store search in our own sheet, no problem. For everything else, we need to do a little bit of legwork in the Sources tab of iTunes Connect. For literal word of mouth, those numbers are not shown anywhere, but we do get some idea from things like if your app is being referred by WhatsApp or messages. For general browsing and web search, we can use the web referrer section. People referred from Google are web search and everyone else is web browse. We can also use the App Referrer tab to pick up people coming from Google Search or Chrome. One of the things to look out for here is this drop down, which lets you find sources of each stage of the journey. For our sheet, we want to use impressions, but changing to look at downloads or even purchases gives us really interesting insights. If you have numbers in the App Store Browse section, that means you're either featured, charting, or both. Fantastic. The next step is to work out if we're featured or charting. We can use App Annie to determine if our app is featured by Apple or if it's charting. If your app is both featured and charting, then wow, congratulations. You'll probably need to dig into the historical data or just guess to work out which of these is having the most impact on your App Store browse numbers though. If we are either featured or charting, you can pull the App Store browse numbers into the appropriate cell. Note that the chart only shows the first 200 items, so if you chart at position 201 or lower, this isn't contributing to your impressions. So how do we improve these numbers? If you've never heard of App Store optimization, or if you haven't spent much time on it recently, this is probably the area you can have the most quick impact. I'd recommend checking out Steve P. Young's App Masters podcast, or his YouTube channel. Search for episodes related to ASO. I'd also suggest taking a look at Apple search ads, and then bringing the keyword info you can learn there into your app's keywords. You don't have to spend any money on this to get information. You can set up a campaign without starting it to get lots of valuable data. If you've done all of this before, do it again. Keep experimenting. There are lots of factors that go into your search ranking, so I'd recommend reviewing these numbers once a month if you can. So for World Clocks, more than 50% of people who view the product page go ahead and download the app. I'm pretty happy with that, but if the rate was lower, I'd want to focus on the things we talked about in the last video in order of priority. Icon, screenshots, ratings and reviews, app name, and app video. Go to the App Store and search for your app. Pause this video for a second while you bring it up. How does your icon look? Are you proud of it? Does it look professional? Would it look at home next to Apple's app icons? If you answered no to any of these questions, then this is your first order of business. Next is your screenshots. How do they look in search results? Can you instantly tell what your app is about and why it's better than the other apps? If not, getting those first two screenshots in order will make a big difference. How about ratings and reviews? Do you have more than 5 in the US App Store? How many ratings do you have? A very quick win here is Apple's SK Store Review Controller. If you haven't added it already, then do it right away. It takes 5 minutes. How about your app name? Unless you have a huge marketing budget, an app name which is descriptive is better and more search friendly than something which sounds cool. And last, but maybe not least, your app video. Do you have one? Apps with videos stand out more than ever since iOS 11 because they play automatically. If everything else is in order, you'll probably be able to improve your numbers by making a video.
Now that our users have downloaded the app, we're going to see how many of them jump ship on the first run and how many stick around. One thing I realized in making this video is that although I have this kind of onboarding metrics in my analytics for some of my other apps, I don't have it for this one. Luckily, I found a way to kind of ad-lib this information, and I'm sure you'll be able to do that too.
I've used new users from Google Analytics as a measure of people who have run the app in the last month, and I have counted anyone who goes to the screen to add a time zone as completing the first run. Even though this is the most basic possible thing the user can do, 25% of people don't do it.
You want to make the onboarding as short as possible, and if you can, avoid using the keyboard at all. Studies have shown that people will stop using an app as soon as they see the keyboard. And I've found this experience to be true myself in my own apps.
The most important number for me in active users is the number of in-app purchases made, as this is a true reflection of how much people value the app. Of course, this may or may not be different for your app, but you will have at least one key metric that is important to you. And it's in this section where I start to see much more room for improvement in World Clock. I've always been proud of the number of ratings the app gets, but looking at it here compared to the number of downloads, I realise the ratio of people leaving a rating must be absolutely minuscule. So one action for me is to change the logic for showing the review prompt and make it more prominent. Also, only about 3% of people who download the app are buying an in-app purchase. As 75% of people are making it through onboarding, I'm happy that the app is easy enough to use, but it seems like this is not providing enough value for people to spend their money on. So this is where I can look at my requested features and think about what is most likely to add value. I could also run a survey to get some feedback. One thing I didn't mention in the previous video is price. Pricing is another thing that is really good to experiment with, because you can easily put it up and down, and if it hurts your numbers, you can just change it back. No code changes or approval required. As it happens, I have experimented with lowering the price, and it made less money, and so I put it back up. For my app, I have 3 levels of payments, and so I could experiment with simplifying this. I could also work on A/B testing various elements of this screen and see if I can increase my conversion rate. To get a sense of reuse, we can look in analytics. It's hard to distill these numbers into a cell in a sheet, but you can get a good feel from iTunes Connect and from your own analytics. I find these analytics both daunting and fascinating. I always learn something new whenever I delve into them. It's easy to get lost though, so use the spreadsheet and the previous video as a high-level map to keep things in context, and do adapt it as necessary to suit your own app. I find it helps to think up specific questions and then try to work out the answer using analytics. For example, what percentage of people who view my app's product page go on to download the app? If you think of it like that, it all starts to make more sense. You can then drill into it for more detail.
I hope you found this video useful and it's helped you to take a new look at your numbers and find a way to increase the amount of revenue you're able to make. If you have any comments or feedback, then don't hesitate to leave them in the comments below, and I will be in there and replying to everyone. Thanks for watching and happy coding. If you would like to join a small group of dedicated developers who are working hard on improving their app, then why not check out the video about my App Mastermind group.